Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today's video is going to be a fun one. In today's video, we get to take a look at the highest attack Pokemon from the Love Cup BV Poke Rankings, and that is Wugtrio. Now, these battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Executor8787, so many thanks for that battle submission. Wugtrio is a pure water-type Pokemon with the moveset of Mud Slap, Liquidation, and Dig. So to be honest, it doesn't have a particularly inspiring moveset, but with an attack stat like that, I know we're going to be in for some crazy games. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. And game number 1, Wugtrio off to a strong start as it leads into Shadow Scizor. Due to the water subtyping, Wugtrio is resistant to bullet punches, but you would not guess it from how much damage Wugtrio has already taken. Wugtrio's health bar unfortunately is getting shredded. There's a pivot into Magcargo, opponent does not react in time, and they lose a Night Slash on that Scizor. In comes Solrock, and this is a very strong answer to Magcargo. However, Magcargo with the 1 Incinerate head start is able to outpace and land a critical Rock Tomb debuff. The hope is that this will make the Rock Slide miss the knockout. Rock Slide lands, Magcargo hangs on, it's going to be close, but Magcargo is able to make Rock Tomb number 2. This will guarantee switch advantage or the shield back, trying to pivot out into the Wugtrio, but unfortunately the switch timer was not quite up. Back in comes Wugtrio. It would win charge attack priority over anything, so banking moves on Wugtrio, probably a pretty solid strategy. The opponent's shielded, so maybe they're weak to Wugtrio in the back. The shield comes up as Solrock goes for the Weather Ball. Solrock gets farmed down. In the back, it's Magcargo, and it's all over. Game is finished. There will be no survivors. Double super effective Liquidation takes the knockout, and that is a good game. Hopping into game number 2, oh my goodness, what a lead. Mud Slap Wugtrio into Turtonator. Opponent pivots out, save switching into Licky. Gonna bank energy on the Wugtrio and then send in the Wormadam. Wormadam farming up. Opponent farms over 100 energy. That's a pretty massive error from them. They farm up to the back-to-back Shadow Balls, but in doing so, they ended up throwing away some energy because you cannot go over 100. Licky already at Shadow Ball number 2, but Wormadam is basically just here to be sacrificed. This team is ABA strong into fire, so if they really want to play for switch advantage, and they do, then it's not really going to help them, especially not when they get Bug Buzz debuffed. In comes Magcargo, opponent threw on alignment there, they blind through, and they blind through a Body Slam, so it's all going wrong for the opponent. They are going to make it to a Shadow Ball, but Magcargo just simply does not care. Back in comes Turtonator. Turtonator is about to get absolutely shredded by this Rock Tomb, and then Wugtrio can look to apply some pretty significant damage. But no, Wugtrio not switching out just yet. Opponent pivots out into a Medicham, and Medicham's about to be taking massive damage from Overheat. Overheat does get shielded by the Medicham, but this is Wugtrio's game to win. Wugtrio will hit the field. It's going to have to double shield, but the opponent's switch timer will not come up in time to save them. Their only hope would be the switch timer came up and they could snipe with the move on Turtonator. But Wugtrio is going to be winning charge attack priority over everything. So Wugtrio just gets the farm up to 100 energy. Back-to-back Liquidations is going to seal it. Liquidation KOs the Medicham, even built up to the Dig. The Dig was completely unnecessary. The Liquidation would have KO'd as well. But flexing that he knew he could farm up to the both, Executor takes the win. We move to the next match, picking up a terrible lead, Wugtrio into Medicham. Medicham just spams out Dynamic Punches way too quickly. Wugtrio farms up, beautiful catch, absorbing Dynamic Punch on the only Pokemon on the team that wants to tank one, and that is the Trash Wormadam. Medicham is going to stay in, looking to rebank its energy, and unfortunately, they have a very hard answer to Trash Wormadam, as out comes Magcargo. Magcargo, it looks like, is going to get 3 Incinerates. That means they exit with a Rock Tomb loaded, and Rock Tomb is a big problem for both Wugtrio and his own Magcargo. Gonna wait down the timer here, send in Wugtrio. Unfortunately, Wugtrio has to shield. It's just simply too glassy. Rock Tomb may be neutral, but Wugtrio would be in a world of hurt. Wugtrio does get the full farm down. Back in comes the Medicham, in comes Magcargo. They save the Medi energy and instead bring in Licky. Licky will be able to threaten big damage with Shadow Ball, but thankfully Magcargo will be able to survive. Magcargo probably has one win condition here, and that's going for the Overheat. If this Overheat lands and takes the knockout, there's a very real chance Overheat lands. Licky survives. 1 HP remaining, and unfortunately, that is going to be game over. Licky pressures the final shield with Shadow Ball. Back in comes the Medicham, but it has 2 Protect shields to hide behind. There's so much energy on Wugtrio, but unfortunately, Wugtrio does not have the back-to-back Liquidations. It's 1 Mud Slap short. In comes Wugtrio, trying to get to the back-to-back, but Medicham makes Dynamic Punch. Wugtrio is too glassy, it gets KO'd, and unfortunately, that game will end in defeat. We move to the next match, seeing a very familiar lead, Wugtrio into Shadow Scizor. Wugtrio, as always, going to be staying in this matchup and playing it out, but these bullet punches are no joke. Scizor farms up massively, actually letting Wugtrio make it to the liquidation. Liquidation forces the shield, in comes Magcargo, opponent fires off energy, and that means they're not going to get both of these Night Slashes. That is going to take the knockout, in comes Solrock, and Solrock is once again going to get outpaced. So we've seen Scizor plus Solrock quite a few times already, and this team has handled it quite nicely, able to apply that debuff with the Rock Tomb. Unfortunately, Magcargo is low enough that it will get knocked out by the Rock Slide. Magcargo no shields, Rock Slide will take the KO, but this could potentially feed farm to either the Wormadam or the Wugtrio. Timer hits 0, in comes Wormadam. Wormadam has to respect the Weather Ball fire. This would just hit for way too much damage, but Wormadam will get a very nice energy head start, and clearly whatever they had in the back did not want to see Wormadam, as they will concede the match. We move to the next game. Oh my goodness, what a lead. Wugtrio into Solrock. Solrock safe switches into not Licky, but Lickitung. Now, unfortunately for Lickitung, they are completely walled off by the Wormadam. Wormadam, if it's down energy, can be a little bit awkward into Licky, but against Lickitung, Lickitung's just getting absolutely destroyed. Lickitung, a blast from the past as far as old metas go, and we are seeing why it does not get a lot of play in this meta. As Body Slam after Body Slam connect into the Wormadam. Wormadam, I think, potentially could have taken the knockout there with Iron Head, but gonna guarantee it by firing off the Bug Buzz. If the opponent brings back in the Solrock, which they do, they're going to get shredded by Bug Bites. They get a nice catch and sneak of the Iron Head onto Licky, but this will still add up. Licky realizes it puts up the shield. In comes Magcargo, but Magcargo is just so far ahead, it's going to be able to handle Licky very comfortably, and then their poor Solrock is going to get mud-slapped into oblivion by Wugtrio. So, after shielding up the first Shadow Ball, Magcargo fires off the Rock Tomb, forcing the shield, and this is just very comfortable to close out the game for Magcargo. Magcargo does not have to respect this. This is a -1 Shadow Ball. That's not going to do a lot. In comes Solrock, but it's immediately greeted with the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb is going to land. In comes Wormadam. Wormadam getting very nice Bug Bite pressure, able to force that Solrock to throw energy. And from here, it's just the Wugtrio show. Wugtrio gets the farm down, exiting with the liquidation loaded. Opponent will not let Wugtrio take the knockout. They're going to top left the match first. Wugtrio versus Slowking in the next match. Mud Slap will hit for super effective here. They pivot out, sending in a Shadow Milotic. Shadow Milotic, unfortunately, Dragon Tails are going to be resisted by the Wormadam counter swap. Wormadam going to be no shielding, as 2 Aqua Tails will not be enough to secure the KO. But Milotic has incredibly efficient pacing. Every 9 turns spamming on Aqua Tail, so being down energy to Milotic does feel a little bit uncomfortable. That is going to force a shield out of the Wormadam. Wormadam would love nothing more than to get a full Bug Bite down here. It's going to be close. Wormadam, not going to get it. Forced to fire off energy, and the Shadow Milotic proving to be a pretty big problem in this game. The opponent brings back in the Slowking. Slowking runs Acid, which means they are going to have a miserable time trying to farm down. Wormadam going to try and punish as it full sends the Bug Buzz. Bug Buzz is going to land and gets a defense drop as well. Opponent pivots out, revealing their final Pokemon is Scrafty, and unfortunately, this game is probably going to end in defeat, because Scrafty can just absolutely delete Magcargo, and these counters are shredding through the Wugtrio. Wugtrio fires off the liquidation. There's the pivot into Magcargo, but unfortunately, Scrafty can just make the back-to-back upper hands. Magcargo no shields. There's the upper hand, and that is going to seal it. With the Wormadam baited out, Scrafty ends up being an absolute nightmare for the opponent. Back-to-back upper hands take the knockout, and our good friend Wugtrio unfortunately gets fully farmed down. Ooh, great opponent in the next match, but not a great lead. Wugtrio into Wormadam. Wugtrio going to be staying in this matchup, but look at the Bug Bites. Wugtrio banks a charge attack and switches into the mirror. I really like this play because if the opponent doesn't have a strong answer to a trash Wormadam safe swap, then it's a very efficient way to neutralize your opponent's energy. Opponent is going to pivot into Alomomola, the bulkiest Love Cup Pokemon that is not named Chansey. Trash Wormadam full sends the Bug Buzz, but unfortunately, Alomomola sees it coming and puts up the shield. Alomomola tries to CMP type Bug Buzz to a Psychic, but it looks like Alomomola is just going to go for the full farm down. A full farm down is going to get them a full Hydro Pump that's loaded, as in comes Wugtrio. Granted, they can pretty safely just fire off a Psychic here, but this is a nice opportunity for Wugtrio farm. The opponent knows it. They deny that farm down, pivoting into Wormadam. Magcargo tries to snipe down, but unfortunately is unable to do so before the Iron Head is reached. Iron Head is going to land. Opponent reveals their final Pokemon as Solrock. This is going to be a very close game. Cargo being up energy is a pretty big help, able to land the Rock Tomb right away, but unfortunately Solrock does make a Rock Slide, and Magcargo is going to have to respect it. Wugtrio does have a move banked in the back, so now the opponent is in a very tough spot. If they shield, they're getting combo played. They no shield, they're putting it all on the back of Alomomola, and it does not deliver. Alomomola gets mud slapped down, and that is a good game. Picking up a tricky lead in the next match, leading Wugtrio into Clefable. Bonus safe switches into Licky. Same game plan as always, 3 mud slaps and a switch into Wormadam, but this time it actually results in a body slam catch. A body slam catch, it puts Trash Wormadam so far ahead in this matchup, because suddenly Licky cannot get to its double Shadow Balls nearly as quickly. Well, it turns out they're not getting to any Shadow Balls because this is an Earthquake Licky. Ironhead would take the knockout here anyway, but presumably Wormadam is going for the Bug Buzz to try and fish for a defense drop if the shield comes out, which it does. Honestly, at this point, the best play is just to let the Wormadam go, and that's exactly what Exeggutor does. Wormadam is sacrificed. In comes Wugtrio. Wugtrio looking for a Mud Slap down, but unfortunately falls just short as Licky leaves with a parting gift of a Body Slam. Body Slam will be shielded. In comes Shadow Milotic. Shadow Milotic is going to be losing charge type priority here as it fires off an Aqua Tail into the water type Wugtrio. That dig was absolutely ridiculous. Look at that damage. Dig is not a great move. In comes Clefable. Clefable immediately under massive pressure from Liquidation. Clefable no shields, it gets rocked, and in comes Magcargo. At this point, this game is over. Clefable will make the back-to-back Meteor Mashes, but Magcargo can just fire off the Rock Tomb. But Magcargo goes for the farm down, and that might cost the game. Magcargo could have thrown the Rock Tomb to guarantee that it would survive the Meteor Mash. It gets KO'd, and now it's a fast move race. Dragon Tail versus Mud Slap. This game will end in a tie. No! 1 HP remaining. Oh, heartbreak. That game was so close, but unfortunately, it will end in defeat. We see a very familiar lead in the next match, Wugtrio into Shadow Scizor. Shadow Scizor fires off the Night Slash instantly. They throw on not the greatest timing, and they end up safe switching into a Shadow Slowbro. Bad news for Shadow Slowbro, as it is getting eaten alive by bug bites from Wormadam. Slowbro fires off the Scald. Scald does get the attack drop, but that does not save the Slowbro, as Slowbro gets fully farmed down. Back in comes Scizor. The timing did look a little bit weird there as Wormadam does fire off the Ironhead. Ironhead shielded up by the Scizor. Wormadam can't quite make it to Ironhead number 2. In comes Magcargo to absorb the Night Slash and guarantee the knockout with Incinerate. Night Slash lands, that's the end of Scizor. In the back is Solrock, and I don't think Solrock is going to like what comes next. Rock Tomb being launched by Magcargo. Rock Tomb is going to be no shielded by the Solrock. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We move to the next game, picking up a pretty rough lead, Wugtrio into Licky. The bulk of Licky is a pretty big problem for Wugtrio, as non-same type attack bonus Mud Slap does not hit particularly hard when you have a Pokemon with that kind of stat product. Safe switch into Wormadam, unanswered by the opponent. They throw a resisted Hyper Beam at it. Oh my goodness, this game is completely going off the rails. I can't believe that they didn't have a better answer to Wormadam, that they stayed in and threw a resisted Hyper Beam. They're just spamming out Body Slam after Body Slam. Wormadam will be able to survive, but now the Wormadam is at critically low HP. Wormadam gonna fire off Ironhead. This should be no shielded by the Licky, and then Wormadam has to hope that it can make Ironhead number 2 into whatever gets brought in, but it cannot. It's a Shadow Slowbro, and unfortunately, I think this game is just gonna end in defeat, as Shadow Slowbro is about to absolutely destroy this entire team. It turns out the opponent did not have a better answer to Wormadam. They had a Slowbro in the back, and this Slowbro is just absolutely sweeping. There's nothing that Magcargo can do. Shield after shield stripped away by the Surf. Magcargo trying for the farm down, firing off the overheat just for bad manners' sake. At this point of the match, both trainers know it's over, and there is the top left, as unfortunately this team got completely destroyed by a Shadow Slowbro. Great lead in the final match as Wugtrio greets a Solrock once again. Solrock is going to be safe switching into Licky. There's that Body Slam catch attempt, but this time unfortunately it is unsuccessful. Opponent farms up to 7 rollouts, one shy of the back-to-back Shadow Balls. Shadow Ball number 1 immediately followed shortly thereafter by Shadow Ball number 2. Switch advantage would be a really big plus here. So if the opponent is able to make a play for switch advantage, then things could get very, very awkward because Magcargo really does not appreciate going up against Solrock. But the opponent is going to be no shielding. They get KO'd. Back in comes Solrock, able to get a pretty big farm down, and in comes Wugtrio. Opponent reveals their final Pokemon is Clefable, and in comes Magcargo. And Magcargo, armed with Rock Tomb, should be able to close out this game. Clefable is going to be firing off Meteor Mash, and in that position, the opponent did end up resigning the match. All in all, these were some very fun battles, so many thanks to Exeggutor for the battle submission. Exeggutor mentioned in the notes that the idea of the team was Wugtrio lead plus RPS backline. Basically, that Wugtrio, despite being a Pokemon that has 151 attack and can kind of get completely destroyed in neutral matchups, Wugtrio, the goal of it was to try and win as many leads as possible, and then from there, if you're able to win the lead, then the combination of Magcargo and Wormadam would just be too strong in the back, and I feel like it did end up working out surprisingly well. Wugtrio is obviously a very flawed Pokemon. Anytime you have a stat distribution that's so heavily favored towards attack, the Pokemon, even a stiff breeze is going to take out the Pokemon. So it's going to need all the help that it can get. And the fact that it doesn't have a great same type attack bonus fast move is a little bit of a downside for Wugtrio as well. It does have access to Water Gun, but in today's day and age, with all the power creep we've had, Water Gun is a really, really underwhelming fast move that isn't really used by much of anything. After watching through these battles, I was curious to see if there was anything else that was eligible for the meta that just wasn't on the PV Poke rankings that might have a higher attack. So after double checking, it appears that Deoxys Attack is actually eligible for this meta and would technically be a higher attack Pokemon in the Love Cup. Now, Deoxys Attack, it's not on the PV Poke rankings because it is so frail. For context, Wugtrio, which is pretty classy, its stat product is in the high 1400s. For Deoxys Attack, its stat product is in the 800s, the mid 800s. So this is just a level of frail where with Deoxys Attack, you're basically never even getting to a single charge stack, much less ever making it to a second one. So I feel pretty comfortable calling Wugtrio the highest attack Love Cup Pokemon on the PV Poke rankings. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching today's video, please do help support the channel by leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. Thank you guys so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.